I remember when I first got into coaching, and my college coach told me, as a coach, you're going to be critiqued, ridiculed, questioned, all of those things. And you're really going to be judged by your wins and losses. But none of that is fair. Where your wins come in is when you coach kids that become productive citizens and husbands and fathers. When you get invited to a wedding or you get to an invitation to a college graduation, he said those are the W's that stay with you, and those are the ones that nobody's counting but you.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we're joined by the head boys basketball coach at the Oakridge School, Andre Walker. Coach Walker has been a head coach for 16 years with stops at Antonian College Prep and Pantego Christian Academy. His overall record is 387 wins and 174 losses. He's led his teams to 7 Final Fours, 4 finals appearances, and 1 state championship. Coach Walker has been named District Coach of the Year 5 times, Texas Coach of the Year once, as well as coaching the TAPS All-Star Game twice. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
Man, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was a journey to get here.
We got to figure it out with times and audio and all this stuff. But I'm so excited to have this talk with you. We've been able to cross paths a lot, being in the same district with each other and then meeting at some other places. But you've just always been one of my favorite people to get to talk to. And so honored to have this time with you, Coach.
Well, same here. And I told my mom about this interview, and she just was tickled pink, man, because I told her about the book and your journey, and of course she was embarrassed and mad at me when I told her that you were the opposing coach when I got ejected out of the game.
Coach, I wasn't going to bring that up, man.
Yeah.
That was an interesting day, and I'm sure some of the questions we'll talk about. I mean, I don't know, maybe you can go into, but I promise you, I was going on to this saying or thinking to myself, like, I won't bring it up, but you did.
Yeah, no, it's always an interesting topic, and I've run across those officials since then, and of course, I'm very conscious about what I say to them.
Yeah,
and,
you
and
weren't a fan of them that day, that's for sure.
no, and I again, I apologize to you after the whole incident, but I apologize to them. I just, when we're coaching, as ex players, we
Yeah,
want to, we feel like we're still part of the game, and we are to a certain extent, and we both have had a lot of success over the years, though we haven't taken one free throw or turned the ball over once. We've just had kids to just buy into our systems, and so I was fighting for the kids at the time, and I thought it was going to be an interesting ball game, to be honest with you. Two competitive teams. It was the first quarter, Coach.
it was. It's the least amount of coaching I've ever had to do to help our team win. But no, it was a strange deal. You're in a tournament. Um, the thing with those games that are so close to each other, and you have different crews, is that you're kind of coming off a game where it was just called one way. You have a completely new
Yes.
group of officials, and now it's really different. And I mean, I get it. I mean, the control that we have to have every game for that not to
Yes.
happen every game is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think we had 10 fouls, and it was about 4 minutes, 5 minutes into the first quarter, and we're a very aggressive team, so I
Right.
get that. But I did, I'd asked the official, can I get just one call? and he gave it to me.
He
He
did.
gave me he gave me the one call and gave me the tech, and then the other official came and said not another word. And I probably should have been a little more professional when I said not another word about the technical foul or the 10 fouls. And I think when I did that, coach, that sent him over the edge. And after he threw me out, I thought about it. I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said
I
that.
didn't think it was enough to get you thrown out. But and then as a coach, hearing that, I'm sure there's a lot of guys inside that are celebrating you because like your response was one that we all want to do. We all want to say that. You just
Yeah,
actually did it. But I didn't
yeah.
think you'd get tossed because of that.
I didn't either. I thought he was going to set me down, which of course we've been going against each other for a number of years. I wish I could sit down like some of my fellow coaches. I admire you guys that actually sit down and call a play. And that would have took all the steam out of me because I'd have had to actually sit down. So,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things, coach, that you learn as you go. As coaches, we continue to grow and learn just as our players do,
Yeah.
and so that was, I felt bad. I think we were 17-0, and I think you guys had only lost one or two ball games. Uh, and I think that was a semifinal. The winner of
Yeah.
that one was going to the championship. So I just hate that our parents and fans and our kids, had to go through that because of me. But lesson learned, and we're gonna move on, man.
That's right. That's right. And we have moved on, Coach. You're the one who brought it up, but no, I think there's a few things there though that you said. One, you guys do play an aggressive style. There have been years where we press defensively and do more of that. The zone that we've kind of moved to, there is some pressure out of that, and so I feel like anytime you do have that aggressive up tempo style, you basically are forcing officials at the very beginning to choose. They're going to
Yes.
choose to let things go because they can't call everything, or they're going to choose to call it really tight from the beginning. And but that's, to me, that's the rarity, is 10 fouls called in the first quarter. I think
Oh
most
yeah.
officials, either they know who your teams are, they're prepared going into it, or they, once they realize it, like there's multiple fouls on every possession that
Mhm.
you just got to let go some, or else
Right.
this game is going to take 3 hours. Those guys
Right.
decided to do what I think is really hard, which is they're going to set the tone early. And then, I mean, I would think you would agree with this. At that point, it's up to us, but then also our players to figure out, okay, how is this being called? And now we got to adjust, because I know, guys, we usually can get away with a lot of these things. Not today.
Right, right, and to be honest with you, one of my coaches was in Chicago. His dad had just passed away, so he was in Chicago. I had another assistant coach that had been planning a cruise for the entire time, and this was one of those rare moments that I went into that tournament and I was by myself.
Right.
Had I had one of my coaches there to say, hey, maybe we should get out of that and fall back into a half court trap, or you know just any kind of suggestion. And then once it got to 10 fouls, I figured maybe after the first quarter we'd go ahead and make the adjustments. But I didn't make it. I didn't make it.
You know what would have really helped you is the new foul rule, Coach. He would have
Yeah.
said, okay, I know this is bad right now, but where it's going to go back to zero.
Yes.
That would
Yes.
have helped.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. But when you play a style like that, you've got to have a deep bench.
Yes.
You've got to have players. You've got to have at least four guards, because two of them are going to be in foul trouble or they're going to get fatigued. You got to have three big guys. You got to have multiple shooters. So you got to be careful when you get in foul trouble, because when you go to your bench, you don't want to have a drop off. Or too big of a drop.
Right.
There's obviously going to be a drop, but if you got seven or eight, really solid players, and then you can kind of lean on that ninth and 10th one to give you a couple more minutes, you'll be in good shape. But you know, It is what it is, Coach. I think that you do a good job of up tempo and with structure. And then you force teams to make bad decisions. And making a bad decision as far as a quick shot or a turnover, an ill-advised shot or something like that. That's just as good as a turnover.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I think a
that's
lot
just
of, yeah, go ahead.
no, and it helps us. In SBC we have the 35-second shot clock. So I'm sure your boys. Hopefully we get you guys over here in our SBC versus Taps challenge one day.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and we get you over here, and your boys can play in that 35 second. I mean, certain systems and certain teams and coaches thrive in those situations.
hmm
And I think your boys will, having a shot clock, they would love it.
Coach, it's obviously one of the questions when we get to the speed round that we'll go through is, and I know you and I both, so I'll probably just take care of it right now. We won it. Your league in Texas at the classification you're a part of, it does have the shot clock. We played in the Cistercian tournament last year and we played with it. Offensively, we never saw it because I mean we're trying to get the best shot as fast as possible. And then defensively is where it was really, really fun because
Mhm.
part of playing fast is keeping the possessions or the rate of play up to a certain level. But like teams like Midland, I think one of the reasons they've always given us fits is we will play fast our direction and shoot a fast shot, but that doesn't mean bad. But our
Right.
possessions are quick. They'll come down, and without a shot clock, they're so disciplined and so methodical with what they do. And it's good action, but it's just they don't mind going 40, 50 seconds in. So
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, whose style are we really playing?
hmm
And we tend like we'll go 5 seconds, 8 seconds, and they'll sit on their end for 2 minutes. Well,
Yeah.
defensively, the effort that you're trying to give is a lot. I think you get worn out like that. And so it would definitely give us more power within our zone to be able to push up, pull back, shrink, and then wait for them to have to make a play.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, certain coaches. Again, it depends on your system. Certain coaches, they're not going to be fans of the shot clock. They get a 5 or 6 point lead, and going into the fourth quarter, they're going to take their eye out of the ball.
That's right.
And you're going to have to foul them just to, I mean, they're going to pass up layups and short corner jump shots. They just not going to take those shots. And they're just going to milk the clock, take their eye out of the ball. You got to foul them. But this forces everybody to play at a certain speed throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, Coach. And I think eventually everyone in the state of Texas will come to playing with the shot clock UIL as well as TAPS.
And then we got to work on getting that time down to 30
Yes.
and then one day to
Yes.
24. But we can't
Yeah.
even worry
Yeah.
about the time
Yeah.
until we actually have it.
That's what I was about to say. This year we had a coaches. It wasn't a meeting, just a get together, and
Little
we were
round
talking
table.
about, yeah, let's see if we can get it down to 30. And some of the coaches thought, hey, let's go to 40, and I'm thinking, no, let's go to
That's the
25.
wrong way. Yeah, that's the
Yes.
wrong way.
But again, they wanted to fit their system, and whatever their system is, some coaches want you to take 5 to 8 shots. Let the defense wear down. You'll catch somebody ball watching, and you get a back door, or they'll double down inside, and you got a wide open three. So it all depends. But
Yeah.
I do like the shot clock, and I think eventually all of us will get into it as well.
The best argument against it is giving less or giving inferior teams, the less talented team, more of an opportunity to dictate how the game is played. And I get that. Like typically, the more possessions in a game favors the better team. That's why. What was the thing we talked about at PGC is there's a 0% chance that a high school team could beat an NBA team. a full game, a 0% chance. It will
Right.
not. Maybe Duncanville, maybe no, but it will not happen. With 90 to 100 possessions,
Mhm.
but there is a chance for a high school team to beat an NBA team if it's a one possession game. Like if they only if they high school starts with the ball, somehow they don't turn it over, they chuck it up there. There's a chance. So like
Yeah.
the less possessions there are in a game, that gap is different. But then
Mhm.
but then I think what it will do, not only make players better because they're having to make plays and react. I think it'll make coaches better, but it also will enhance the end of game situations. Because to
Mhm.
your point, if we're up 8 or less with 2 minutes left, we go wide. We've been running and gunning the whole game. Now we're going to suck the life out of it because
That's right.
in the rules we can.
Right.
8 points now with a shot clock, especially if it gets around 30 seconds. But a 3 minute game and it's an 8 point game, that's an eternity. Like
Yeah.
you still got a chance because you still got to execute offensively.
Well, that's like you said, an 8 point ball game with 3 minutes. I think last year we had a ball game and we were down 10 or 12 with about 3:30 or whatnot. And I said, guys, we're down 12, but if we can get 4 possessions, we need 4 possessions, and out of those 4 possessions, we've got to have at least two or three threes. Now we've got to stop them on the other end, and so next thing you know, coach, it's a 30 seconds left, and it's a 1 point ball game.
Yeah,
Okay,
because they
and
still had to play. Like they couldn't
yes,
just because your plan works well if you have 4 possessions. But
right,
if they
right.
take the air out and take clock away, you don't get those, and then they're
Yes,
shooting free throws.
that's right. You don't get those 4 possessions, and then of course you still have to, you still got to score on your end, and then play defense, and
Yeah,
and of course that's when we get into the, we're going to play quick foul. We're going to quick foul, and hopefully those guys clank the free throws. Now you got to think about it because now you're shooting two free throws
yep.
instead of the front end of a 1-and-1. So now that puts in a whole new twist into in the game situations and how do you approach it that way. But that's why that's why we make the big bucks, right?
Hey, I there's not even a response to that, just a laugh. I was thinking about that with the fouls. Like, obviously, I think in the first, second, third quarter, there's a huge upside to the 5 fouls and then resetting. Like, I love that. I really do because, to your point, like in that game that we were a part of with. Because it wasn't even the end of the first. Like it was six. There was 2 minutes left in the first. You're
Yeah.
already at 10, and you're doing that for the rest of the half. Like that's
Yeah.
tough. But so I love that part. And then I did think about, okay, well, but the last couple minutes when they're only shooting 2 shot fouls, there is a negative there. The fact that there's less pressure on the first one because they know they get a
They
second
get the
one
second.
that I think will allow them to shoot better on the first one because there's less pressure.
Yes.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's also for us the 2 shot foul. There is some positives in that because we basically get 30 seconds to
Hmm.
call something, to
Right.
organize. So it's almost like we're getting these little extra 30-second timeouts. Now, so are they, but
Right.
that we
Right.
wouldn't have gotten if it was just a 1-on-1. 1-on-1, you have that 8 seconds or so while they're kind of setting up, and then when that thing's live, we're playing. You're gonna.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be able to do more, have more organization, more things planned because of those 2 shot fouls.
Well, I tell you what, it also allows us is now you're going to look at your players and you want if you've got 3 or 4 guys that are really good free throw shooters, even if one's a non-starter,
Yep.
now we're going to have those guys in the ball game. On the offensive side, obviously we'll go offense,
Yes.
defense if we can. But if you've got a kid that's only playing 8 to 10 minutes, but he's a knockdown free throw shooter, at the end of the game, the last 2, 3 minutes when we know we're shooting 2 free throws, I'm gonna throw him in there, especially on the offensive end. So it has its advantages. I mean, every game is a chess game. I think basketball has evolved to the point where, Coach, some teams, we played in the state championship game against Cassidy last year in the SBC, and we were up. We played them in conference, and we were in Oklahoma. Coach, we're up 24 uh, with about 2 or 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. And I sub some kids in, get some kids some playing time, that normally wouldn't play and whatnot. And next thing you know, Cassidy knocked down some
Oh
threes. And
man.
middle of the fourth quarter, it's a 9, 10 point ball game. Shows you how smart I am. So
Too
I
early. You did it
started,
too early,
yeah,
coach.
too early, exactly. And so, we put the story anyway. We ended up winning by 8, 10 points. But what it did was it gave that team and that coach a ton of confidence. I told our players in the locker room, I said, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot, even though we won. The next time we see these guys, if we have to play them in the playoffs, they're going to come in with a different attitude. They're going to come in with guns blazing. They're going to come in with an attitude that, hey, we can really play with these guys.
Yeah.
And sure enough, and that 3 point shooting, I think we played them in the state championship game, the first quarter. It started off 12-2, Coach. They hit 4 threes in a row, which, that changes the whole ball game. So, we will see, how things work as far as how do you get kids to buy in to not shooting threes, and shooting threes is a question I like to ask you.
So you're talking more about at what point of the game should they not be shooting them, or are you
Yes.
talking about at any point in the game certain kids not having the same green light as others?
Well, obviously certain kids, yeah, we don't want to be mean,
Yep.
but we're going to be honest, and if you've got a kid and I got a kid, and this kid is, he's in the gym and he's shooting 4, 5, 800 free throw 3 pointers a day, 3 or 4 times a week, compared to that one guy who shows up every blue moon. Everybody doesn't have the same. I call it the credit card. Some people's credit cards, you get a little more money on that
The
card.
balance is a little bigger.
Yeah. So with my guys, what we did in that championship game, we immediately started shooting the three in a panic mode,
Yeah.
because and then next thing you know, we start climbing ourselves. It got away from us, and I mean, it was a 20-something point ball game, and we went back and chopped it to 4, but that helped with the shot clock. But I think shooting threes just to be shooting. If you're not a 3 point shooter, those things take away from your game, and kids start to panic a little.
Yep. So it's a great question. And I think it always goes back for me, it goes to shot selection. Like the day one of the school year, we don't talk about things far down the road. We don't talk about offensive or defensive strategies. We go over our shot selection scale. Because I think if how your guys view shot selection, there's the teams, it really is going to show a lot about your culture. And I tell our guys, like, what's the number one reason why teams lose games? And I ask them that, and they'll get a lot of answers like, well, obviously we didn't score enough, or we fouled too much, we turned the ball over too much, like they out rebounded us. Like I always say, like our effort wasn't good. I always say those are great answers, and I think that's a part of it. But the number one reason is shot selection. And I just kind of do a little test with them. I say, raise your hand if you've ever lost by 8 or less points, and everybody raises their hand. Well, that's one bad shot a quarter. And the thing with shot selection is, to your point, like it's under our control. We choose whether we fire that thing or not. And so you got to establish a scale or a way of talking about shooting that we're all on the same page, so that in those moments when panic sets in and you've got players that, I mean, most of the time, I don't think players are shooting out of selfishness in those moments, but more like, I got to hit a home run. I got to make a big play to stop them. It's like they're trying to be the hero, in that moment. And we got to take that off of the table for them. And so shot selection is what it eliminates little Timmy from thinking my open shot is what he thinks it is. It's so in that moment, and then this is maybe where style of play comes into it. We're gonna take away the thought of time, score, momentum. Those three things that great coaches talk about, we're not going to focus on those at all. So, what I mean by that is, as the other team is making their run, we're going to operate offensively the same as always, which means is if a dude is open from three and it's a 7 for us, a wide open jump shot within his range, then we're going to take that independent of what's happening on the other end, what the parents are yelling, stop shooting threes. No.
Yeah.
If it's a 7, if it's a 7, where I missed the last 5, coach. If you're open on the next one and it's a 7, because we're not outcome based with our offensive possessions. We're not attached to that outcome. What we're trying to do is be process based. So our goal offensively is the best shot as fast as possible. What that means is I'm not going to take control or pull them back at all. And we have kind of a little barrier. It's like that 2 to 2.5 to 3 minute range. If there's that amount of time left in the game and it's 8 or less, we're going to go wide. When we go wide, then they're only allowed nines. Nines are wide open layups. So because of that, I don't say just shoot smart shots, because Coach Little Timmy doesn't understand what that means, right? Like you're going to have a player that's like, oh, that means my step back, right? No, like only nines. And coach, what about 8s, contested layups? Well, no, because if they don't call the foul, that 8 doesn't really help us right there, right? It's difficulty. So, coach, to me, anytime that there is a conflict between shots that players are taking and how I feel about that, I've got to go back to what is our culture? How do we talk about shot selection? To me, it's the most important thing that we have to establish. And that once we establish it, and in our system, we will take every 7 at every opportunity. An open, sometimes it's threes, but it doesn't have to be a 3, but an open jump shot within the range, regardless of what has happened. What that does is it allows our players to shoot with to shoot courageously with almost an unconscious mind, where they don't have to just make it, they have to take it. And that change, that's a Doug Novak term. Like that idea of going from I pressure of making this shot to, man, I know that this is a requirement that I take it. I think that's how you get guys shooting courageously. Long answer to your question. Hope I got it a little bit.
No, you knocked it out the ballpark, and it leads me to when we talk about culture, what's your identity as far as your program, and one thing that we focus on is, of course, everybody wants to shoot, and everybody thinks that that's the ball game, and in the the team that scores the most points does win. But we can have a bad shooting night, and I'm okay with us having a bad shooting night, because if we're 0 for 4 or 2 for 7, but we hold that other team to a 3 for 7, we're down 2 or 3 points, even on a bad shooting night in the first quarter or so, and now you knock down your free throws. So what we'd like to put emphasis on is our defense. And we want to be able to shoot 3-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
So we want to get 3 shots up to their 1. So we've got to turn the ball over. And if they take another shot, it's a bad shot. They got a kid
Your
that goes.
offensive rebounding is huge with that too.
Exactly, exactly. You've got to get the offensive rebound, and we really want to get some defensive rebounds, because I tell you, we don't want that team to have a second chance.
Yep.
They get a shot, and we don't get that loose ball, that 50-50 ball. That, hey, we've got to get that. That's where our MTXE and that mental toughness, extra effort. We if it's a 50-50 ball, somebody's got to get on the floor and get that ball. I don't care who it is, and so we've got to come up with those, and it's little things that will accumulate throughout the game that will make a difference.
Yes.
And so I'm a firm believer of the defensive effort first, and defense creates offense, and if we play good defense for 30 seconds or 32 seconds, now this team is in a panic mode because they've only got 2 or 3 seconds to get a shot up. So that's where that shot clock comes back into play, along with playing really good defense. I mean, a lot of coaches are offensive minded coaches, and so am I. I used to think I was until read across you guys and read across Prestonwood. I was at
Yeah.
I was at Antonian for years, and I played in the Final Four, and we go up against Prestonwood and Julius Randle and all the shooters they had, and then it's just you play against you go down to Lubbock and you got those guys,
Yeah.
and so you've got some pretty good offensive minded schools here and teams that are just well coached. I think Turner over at Colleyville Covenant does a
Steve
really
does an
good
awesome job.
Yes, he does a really good job. So, and we, I know I myself, uh, we're some of the biggest. Some people say we borrow things from other coaches. I'm on television watching a game, and I'll pause and write this play down because it's such a good play. So I've even taken plays from different schools and named the play after the
That's
school.
right.
So it won't make it complicated for the kids as well as myself. They're like, "What are you gonna call it?" "Oh, Vikings. I got it from Nolan Catholic." Whatever. Call it. This is lion, or roar. Where'd you
Yeah.
get that? "Oh, I got that from Faith." Look, and you guys do that dribble drive, and that guy stays in the corner, coach. You just, yeah, I just
You
love.
got to keep him in the corner. That don't let him be
Yeah.
creepy. Don't let him be
Yes.
creepy. Yeah.
Yes, I love that, and no matter how you scout it, and it's one of those plays where if they come down for weak side help, which 9 times out of 10 they're going to do, your guy kicks it to the corner, he's wide open,
Yeah.
and if he doesn't, then he's got a layup. So
Yeah. We
it's
want to create opportunities for our players. And I've told our guys this a bunch. Like, what's the best possession offensively is when the playmaker has two choices that are both great.
yeah,
I think so many plays that people do run do create an advantage, but that's the only one. Like, that's the only thing they can do. Well,
right.
what if there's a good scouting team, or what if a defender makes the right choice? Then all of that action that you've done and the time that you've spent, you lost your advantage, or it's not there. But if we can create space with a dynamic playmaker who can get downhill, and guys in dangerous positions where that defender has to choose, and whatever he chooses, like Michael Jordan said, whatever he chooses, he's wrong. Like, those are the
Right.
types of continuities or actions that we really want to try to create for our players.
Yeah. Well, you guys do a good job, and I know that from experience. Just I enjoy watching you guys play. It's going to be, I call it the rubberneck because you're going to be up and down and side to side, and it's exciting, and the kids get excited to play in situations like that. And I just want to give you an attaboy. I know you
No.
got coaches that have been there for you. Now they're head coaches at other places, and that's where we get our feel good.
Yeah, the
Story.
tree. Yeah. So
Yes.
I want to celebrate you too, because I do think you create that type of energy and fun with your style of play. And I want to go back to a point that you made about defense being something that has to be a constant. It's a misconception, I think, that if you run and gun offensively, that you don't care about the defensive side.
Right.
Now, obviously, I mean, that's why Coach D, who's at the Highlands in Irving that you kind of mentioned,
Mhm.
I brought him on board because I wanted more of a defensive-minded guy, just somebody to watch that, because I enjoy coaching and watching the offensive side. But
Right.
the whole idea that you live and die by the three when you run and gun, I completely reject that idea,
Mhm.
because one, if that's the truth, then we live tons more than we die. But on the nights that we don't shoot well, our defense should remain and hold and give us an opportunity to win.
That's right.
And that's where like I think that you guys do that. You do generate a lot of offense from your defense, and whether or not like your team needs to have an identity.
Right.
Our identity is we are going to play fast, play in space. We're going to shoot fast shots, but that ones that we agree with, that we feel good about. But that also means, or that doesn't mean that defensively we don't have a focus or an identity on that end. There just happens to be one that we're focusing on that probably more every night, or that's the way that we win the most. But you got to be able to do it different ways. Your focus is more on the defensive side, but you still have to convert and do something with that ball when you get it. And so, but I think identity is important. And you want your players to have something that they know, this is who we are. This is what we hang our hat on. And I think that's a danger of trying to be great at everything and have the same amount of focus on everything, is that maybe you become a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Right. Well, our kids, number one, we really put a lot of emphasis and pride on defense because yeah, you can be talented and you can jump higher, or you could be faster, or you could shoot the ball better. But when it comes to playing defense, it's a mental thing. You've got to, yeah, I want to be able to move my feet and not reach and not have fouls, and I want to stop my opponent. So when you do that, you're doing that, and you don't need any talent to do that. You don't need any talent to play defense. All you need to do is play hard and have a little heart. So we put emphasis, and now the reward that we give the kids, because it's a 35-second shot clock and everybody wants to shoot. Hey, we play good defense. We can get down here and get a quick shot. Now, if we don't have it in transition, let's bring it out and let's run a set. Now, we're going to have to run this set fast because we've only got so many seconds.
Right.
Okay. But we want to turn around and play defense so we can get the ball back so we can do this again, because this is what you guys want to do.
Yeah.
You want to get shot up. You want to go ahead and get a layup and a dunk and a three-pointer. And that's all fine because we need that to win the ball game. But let's do it again. And the only way we can do it again is by getting the ball back. So we really hang our hat on the defense, our turnovers, and assists. I'm big on giving that assist, because that assist, you can have a kid, and this, I read this in your book, you can have 8 or 9 assists or 6 assists and don't have any points, but you've just helped the team get 14, 16 points. And that's not including threes, so you have contributed more than with those assists. So I had a kid last year, and he said, Coach, I want to get 10 assists. And I said, son, if you get 10 assists, I've never seen, it's not that it can't happen, but very rarely do you get, and he had 7 assists, Coach, 7 steals, and 10 rebounds. And he had 2 points, and he got 2 points at the free throw line. And I said that he affected the game and had more impact on the game than this 6'10" kid who had 35 and 14. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He impacted it in every kind of way you can possibly think of, defensively, offensively. So, but we really want to hang our hat on our defense, Coach. I think that, and it creates offense, and it becomes fun when guys get a chance to go up and down and play defense once they buy into it.
I love the way you started that kind of that whole part there with what it takes to be a good defender. Obviously, athleticism, that's a huge piece to it, but there's guys that can also use their brain, that maybe like myself, that weren't as athletic, but I'm smart. I can choose the right angle. I can anticipate well. But all of those things defensively, and there's a lot of heart and effort and focus involved, can be put in a relatively small amount of time. And then you get better and better. And then the more that you emphasize it, the better they get at it. That's
Yes,
kind of
yes.
why I'm a big believer in all spring, all summer, all fall, having the offensive side the main focus, where it's all skill work, it's all shooting, it's all concepts that offensively are going to help us. I'm reading Dick DeVenzio's book, Stuff That All Good Players Should Know. Part of it is to coaches, part of it is to players in the book. In one part, he even has, I highlighted it. He says, let's stop kidding ourselves that we need to spend more time on defense than we need to on offense. And it just
Mhm.
kind of made me laugh because, like,
Right.
knowing I was around Dick when he was still alive in the late '90s, but he's right about that. Like the shell drill in the spring or things are the fall. Like, what do we want? We want them better with the ball in their hands, having more abilities, more skills that they can go to. It opens up our playbook and things that they can see on the floor. But defensively, we can put that in a short amount of time. And then the
Right.
more effort and the more you hang your hat on that, the better they'll get. But I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think sometimes I hate to say that it's wasted, because I think if you're passionate about it and you're helping players get better, it's never a waste of time. But
Right.
I would shift that focus in the off season and the preseason to be heavily offensive based, because that's the side of the floor that takes more time.
Yeah, and I tell you, with that being said, Coach, I don't care how good of a defensive team you are. If you don't put that ball in the hole, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we put a lot of emphasis on defense, but at the same time, uh, you have a lot of guys that play AAU, and so do I, and I coach some local AAU
Yeah.
kids. Nothing, I don't like to get on the road in the summer, but sometimes our kids, and I'm not just talking about yours and mine, our kids basketball, they come back to their prospective high schools after AAU, and they've picked up some horrendous
Yeah,
habits.
that's true.
I mean, all of a sudden, this guy who is he can't dribble now. He's pounding the ball. A guy who can't shoot now, he's shooting 3 pointers, and so we've got to go back and break those habits down in order for it to fit, in what we want to do. Just like I tell our kids, I'm glad that you guys get another voice and
Yeah.
play AAU and go to trainers and stuff. I just hope that they're training you to do things that's going to help us,
Yeah. Yeah.
as a whole, and I want you to improve and you to improve it. And I love it when they go and get a chance to play all summer and there's other voices, because, after a while you can pound it and it starts falling on deaf ears if you're the only one saying
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you know.
I think that's
So
such a great point, Coach, about one. I think we obviously want them with the ball in their hands more year round. It helps them to become better players. I think it's good for them to hear different voices and learn different styles. And Coach, what I
right.
found is whatever they're doing in select ball, AAU ball, like, and especially at the 5A TAPS level, most of the time the competition they're going to get in select ball might be another level up athletically, might
For
be
sure.
playing
Yeah.
against bigger players. So,
Yeah.
like, even though they are learning some habits and doing some things, maybe even offensively running some stuff that I'm like, well, we're not, you're never going to worry about that, like, even if that's happening, I want them to return to faith basketball. And I tell them, like, guys, breathe in deep, breathe out, fresh air, you're back, baby. Kind
Right.
of
Right.
like how about this, coaches? We have a culture and a style of play that players can't wait to come back to. I think
Right.
that's a good goal.
Yes.
Instead of like, man, I
Yes.
really, because select ball is a lot more open and it's a lot more
Yeah.
free. So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
coming back
Yeah.
from that, and then we demand so much structure and so much thinking and everything, and it's almost like, what? How can we take the freedom and kind of that helter skelter style that they're doing all spring and summer, that we're encouraging them to go do,
Mhm.
and then bring some of that back while reminding them of the concepts that we want to play with.
Yeah. Well, coach, it's just like uh, I call our coaching style and what you do with your team and your program. So I like gumbo, okay, or stew. You want to put something in, take something out to make the flavor just like you like it. Let me add a little something else, and let me take something out. So that's how we come up, and with, in my view, of a good team in our process and the way we want to go, because there's no perfect formula.
Right.
So you've got to add a little and take a little. So all the positive that the kids bring back in this from summer, we're going to add that and implement it into their game. And all the negative, you know, I'm a stickler about jumping the pass, and
Yeah.
sometimes you have
Yeah.
to jump the pass. I mean, you do, but yeah, a smart player and a smart team and a team that's well coached and they've scouted you, they're gonna let you know this kid's gonna jump the pass every time. We're gonna take the charge,
Yeah.
okay? And after two or three charges in high school basketball, I don't care who you are, you're coming to sit down,
And you're
because
going to be less aggressive too. You'll be less aggressive.
exactly. So we have different things. We want to keep the positives and get rid of the negatives, but that's an ongoing process. That's just not for one kid. That's for a whole team. And that starts from day one all the way to the end of the season, and then we start all over again with a whole new group of kids.
I
It's
really
just
like that approach. I really like
yeah,
your approach to taking the players that, because the taking the players that you get each year and figuring out how they work together. Because at
yes,
the way that the college game has changed, where kids bounce around, that's bled down to the high school level, where I
hmm
go into each year thinking, okay, well, the first day of school, who's in the gym? All right, thank you, Lord, for these kids. I have them for 1 year.
yeah,
And that's my focus is I'm just going to
yeah,
do my very, very best for this 1 year, because if not, like you start to bank on they're going to be here for 2, 3, or 4 years,
yeah,
and then you get invested emotionally and everything. Coach, you get your feelings hurt. I mean, that's the way I
yeah.
felt about it, almost like it's a betrayal, but it's not. Kids
No,
choose, coaches
right,
choose to do different things,
right,
and kids choose.
right,
Parents are allowed to move, they're allowed to do those things. And so now obviously the means by which it's happening, that's sometimes tough to
yeah,
swallow, and we won't get into that. But my whole
right,
point is it's really smart not to be so sold out to a style of play that if the ingredients
right,
to your stew, if you have different ingredients, you can't make the same thing that you did a year ago,
that's
or
right,
2 years ago, or three. and
that's
and,
right,
and so I'm really impressed with, you're not stubborn, you're willing to make those changes, but then you know what, you still know what you like. It still has to
yes,
taste good. Coach, I
yeah,
like that
yeah.
analogy. That's good.
Well, one year we had a team that was really good. They were fast and we could press, and I had a 7-footer in the back, and I had a 6'6", which is always good to have, especially in high school
Yeah.
basketball. And we were okay. Well, the next year I've got four kids that they can't even cross half court without huffing and puffing. The 7-footer's gone. I got a 6'5" kid, but he can't jump over a quarter. And so now all of a sudden that pressing and that fast tempo, that we got to throw this to the side, and we're gonna put it in the vault, but we'll bring it back out another time. We've got to figure out a script for this group, because this group can't do the same as that group,
Yeah.
and you have to. It's a fine balance, I mean, obviously, you've been coaching for a number of years. You got a team. Of course, you guys lead the Texas state of Texas in 3-point attempts, but you've had teams that shot the ball better than others.
No
You
doubt.
know,
Yeah.
and, and you know that, and okay, this team is not as good as a 3-point shooting team. That doesn't mean we're not going to shoot it. I know as a coach, and they know as a team that they're just not as efficient, or constant as the teams I've had before. So we have to make adjustments to your team and your talent, and that changes every year. You know, people talk about Coach Calipari at Kentucky, how he gets those one and dones. You know, that's almost like high school now, because you never know. I've had some good players, and next thing I know, they're taking off, and you're like, what did I do, or what
Yeah, yeah,
happened? But sometimes kids have to leave, and whether we agree with it or not, we have to be supportive.
no doubt.
Uh,
And not
and
take
so
it personal, because I think,
exactly.
especially to the kid, and when they're in that select world, when you're in a big metroplex like we are, there's just a
Uh-huh.
lot of voices out there,
Yes,
and
yes.
people will naturally want to go where they feel like there's going to be a better path, less
Yes.
resistance.
Hmm.
This whole idea that the grass is greener on the other side. I think a majority of people operate with that thinking, instead of the way you and I probably like to think is, you want greener grass, water it yourself.
Yes,
Like,
we
water
have it
your
right.
own grass and make it
Yes,
work. That's
yes,
just not the reality. And then, so, I mean, obviously you celebrate, and those players that do stick it out with you, they'll always
yes.
have a special place in your heart. But to your point, uh, if we are in this for kids, we're not going to turn a blind eye to them, or not going to turn them away, or cut the relationship off if they
Hmm.
do, or their parents make
Hmm.
a decision that we disagree with.
Right, right. Real quick, I had a kid that had been with me since I was actually here in the DFW. I got him about the third or fourth grade, and we were at PCA, Pantego, for years. And then I came over to Oakridge, and he came over to the Oakridge school with me his freshman and sophomore year, and then his junior year. Uh, uh, I guess a Wednesday before we actually started practice, they come up and say, "Coach, we're going to take off and we're going to a school in Philadelphia
Oh,
somewhere."
wow. Wow.
And I mean, when you say the loyalty and the things, I mean, a million things start going through my mind. And I'm like, this kid's been with me forever, and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
After we cry in the parking lot, and we hug, and the I love yous, and I'll stay in touch. And sure enough, they're calling you, and we're talking. And after the basketball season is over, you get that phone call from the kid, and it's like, "Coach, I want to come home." I had fun. I did what I wanted to do, but I just miss being at home. I miss being at the gym. I miss my teammates, my mom and dad, and of course he said he missed Whataburger. And I said, well,
That's
I
how we
said,
keep players here, is the food.
yes. So and I told him, I said, well, we're gonna have a celebration. I'll get a fatty calf, and we're gonna celebrate, your return, man. So anyway, hey, he came back, and next thing you know, we go to the state championship, and so it's those kind of relationships that we as coaches, no matter what, they continue to grow and build. We as coaches. I remember when I first got into coaching, and my college coach told me, he says, "Now, as a coach, uh, you're going to be critiqued, ridiculed, questioned, all of those things." He says, "And you're really going to be judged by your wins and losses." He says, "But none of that is fair." He says, "Where your wins come in is when you coach kids that become productive citizens and husbands and fathers. When you get invited to a wedding, or you get to an invitation to a college graduation," he said, "those are the W's that stay with you, and those are the ones that nobody's counting but you." And the relationships, the emails and the text messages that I get for kids that I coached 15, 20 years ago, and they come into town to the Dallas DFW area and say, "Coach, let's grab lunch." Those are our W's that no one can take away from us. So that's one of the joys I get from coaching as well.
Coaches, we are all searching for ways to better evaluate players in order to give meaningful feedback. Over 15 years ago, I put together a test called the Jamodi Skill Rating. The JSR takes players through a series of tests involving basketball skill or athleticism, giving them one rating at the end. Their JSR rating will give you clarity on what needs to be discussed with players and parents on areas they need to focus on improving. I test our players at least 4 times each year. They're able to compete against each other, past players' scores, and most importantly, their past performances. If you'd like to start testing your athletes, email me at jamodipodcast@gmail.com for more information. Well said, man, right there.
Yeah.
I love that we're talking about this because one, I don't think it's something coaches mention quite a bit is the heartache involved with doing this. And so when at the end of these seasons, when these moments inevitably happen, where it could even be a starter. A couple of years ago, we had a starter. He had a 22-point playoff game. He decided to go to a district rival. Like it was really hard. And and he was a junior. Like he had another year. And so when that happens, you balance. I think is really important. You don't want to just say, well, that's just his mistake, his family, right. They're just this. I'm just going to keep plugging away.
Right.
You want to assess and really ask, okay, let's see why. He says it's these reasons, but is there anything else? Like, I mean, do a personal inventory of yourself as a coach, the way you communicate, the way that you handle your players throughout the season, maybe the style of play or the culture that you have. And really do a deep dive into what you're doing. On the other side, don't wreck yourself. On the other side of the balance is, or you can go too far and it ruin your entire summer. You think that you're not very good at doing this and you reevaluate and change things that don't need to be changed or lose your confidence. And I think so many times we're always talking about player confidence. Well, what about coaches' confidence?
Yeah.
What about coaches' confidence and the fact that, players really give us confidence as well because of how they respond to our coaching, how the improvements that they're able to make because of the things that we're doing. And I don't think it's another thing it's not talked, but in those moments, as hard as they are, have good balance. Check and see, is there any truth or is there anything I can adjust? But don't go so far as to lose your confidence and your why behind what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that, and there's been plenty of times, Coach, and I think this goes for every coach that's had coaches basketball or any sport for that matter. We're just biased because we're basketball coaches, but there's times after a tough loss, and I've lost in Final Fours and championships and district games where if you win this game, you go to the playoffs and the kid hit a half court shot and your season's over. So we had and we've been on the other side of that. We're celebrating. So all of those things, and there's times where I'm driving home after a game and I'm just thinking, what did I do wrong? Or what could I have done to make sure that this we didn't have this kind of outcome, and you can watch film, but we as coaches, like you say, we have feelings, and people think that we go with this coat of armor that we're Teflon, but at the same time, we've got feelings, and we feel, I know I do. When we have a tough loss or something happens, I think what could I have done to change that outcome? Sometimes you think, gosh, I let the boys down. I let these players down, who are getting up at 5 a.m. to come to practice at 6 a.m. And we're watching film and, we do all these things and you feel like, gosh, at the end of the year, gosh, I let these guys down. I let the community down, the alumni. So we have all those thoughts going through our mind, but then there's something that will trigger and make us say, you know what, it was a good year. We're not going to be defined by this one loss. This was a good year. The bus rides, I don't care what anybody says, the bus rides to the game are the best. Yeah, ever since I was a kid, man, and of course I'm driving the kids on the bus, and just to be in the locker room, and of course coming back, to after a win, it's just those are memories that last a lifetime, and for us, faces change, teams changes, we may even go from one school to another, but the goal stays the same. You know, but we don't want to let anybody down. So sometimes I think, and you being married, Coach, my daughter, she's old and I've gone, but you being married with young ones, you have to define your time, not only with work and basketball and scouting, but with family
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
kids. That's tough. That's tough to do, So
Yeah.
and people don't give us, and not that we want it or we need it, because we know what we've gotten ourselves into. We've been we've been playing this game since we were kids. I
That's
mean,
right.
uh, I tell my boys this was my first girlfriend, and she's never left me. This is my
Sometimes
first.
doesn't do what I want, but she's still there. Yeah.
Yeah. She's never left me, and I'm still here, and this is our sanctuary. Outside of church and my home, there's no other place I'd rather be but in a gym. It's
Yeah.
just to be in a gym and hear the shoes and the balls and everything, man. It warms my heart. It really does. And you being a basketball junkie, you get the same rush, I'm sure.
No doubt. No doubt. When I tell people in faith, they'll ask me how my day's going, and I'll say I'm living the dream. And
Hmm.
some people take that sarcastically, like I don't like being there, and I correct them pretty quickly, like, oh yeah, sure. I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah.
serious. Like
Yes.
I've been other places and I've done other things. I mean, kind of
Yes.
almost a previous life too, that yeah, I'm blessed to be here, and I feel that almost every single
Yes.
day. And
Yes.
one thing you talked about the how it's our fault and how we take it like that. And I'm going through Jocko Willick's book right now, Extreme Ownership. And I
Hmm.
think the at times as coaches, if we're ever blaming our players for failures in a game
Yeah.
or why things aren't going right, we're hardly at our best at that point.
That's right.
When
That's
we're
right.
at our best as leaders is when everything that goes wrong, it's our
Hmm.
fault. And we don't
Yeah.
just say that to them, but we believe it, and we're
Mhm.
trying to find solutions to fix things. Take,
Yeah.
for instance, like, Coach, rebounding is something I don't think I'm great at coaching or developing rebounders. But man, like the emphasis, I feel like for me and our staff it has picked up over the years, but there's games where we just still don't. And I find myself wanting to be like, if they would just block out, want the ball, get after it, go get it, hit somebody in the chest, like
That's
how
right.
but I got to turn that back around. The fact that they're not doing it at the level that I feel like they could, it's because I haven't gotten them there yet. I haven't connected the why to them enough yet, or given them the urgency yet.
Yeah.
When you turn it around and you have that extreme ownership to everything, golly,
Hmm.
coach, I feel like you start to
Yeah.
put systems in place and fix things instead of, I mean, how many times do we really just do what the parents are doing? We're
Right.
just complaining
Right.
about things that aren't going wrong, but we're not doing anything to fix it. That's what
That's
they do.
right. That's
And
right.
but to their credit though, they can't do anything, right? We
Yeah.
can.
I tell the guys, hey, your parents, they want the best for everybody. They really do. Now, they really want the best for little Johnny, okay? Uh,
They've
but
got that tunnel vision.
yeah,
This is what I see when I
yes,
yeah.
yes. And so it's like Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner. Nobody is coming to help prepare the food, which is our practices, our game time. They don't see us watching film, ordering uniforms, washing uniforms, all those intangibles that go into this process. All they see is the outcome or the end process, which is, they just want to come see the game. And
Yeah.
and and I tell the guys, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy with the cooking and the buying of the groceries and this, that. All they want to do is see the final product. And so you're the final product. So now we have to go out here and show everybody what we've been doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so the kids buy into it, but as parents, they're going to critique us, coach. I mean, we're the only profession that we can't go anywhere and critique the parents, at their jobs. But we've got to take it, and we take it on
That'd
the
be
chin.
fun. That'd be fun.
I
You
mean,
know, go ahead.
no, I sit back and I watch football games on Saturdays and
Yeah.
Sundays, and I am the best college coach sitting in my chair.
You can see
our
it clearly. You can see it. What are the this is what the Cowboys are doing wrong, golly.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes, yeah,
you mentioned something that I thought it's an interesting point about basically the unseen hours. And that's
yeah,
a common term that's used for players, that the best players are the ones that are doing things in the unseen hours when
that's
coaches
right,
aren't watching, when they're
that's right,
not under the lights and they don't have
that's right,
fans. How much of
that's
our
right.
profession and us growing and getting better at it is about the unseen hours? It's about the things that we don't get credit for, but golly, they're really important. It's the
Yes,
books you read, the clinics you go
yes,
to, the podcasts you listen to, the coaching
yes,
talks that you have, how you go back and
yes.
you evaluate the systems and things that you've done in the past. Like, those are the unseen hours that we have to be conscious of too.
Right, right. Well, Coach, I've got a book, and I want you to, if you get a chance, get a hold of it.
Okay.
Uh, uh, it's called Attitude. Jay Wright.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and Jay, Jay's he's one of the best all time, and he has this book Attitude, and it hits us. Uh, it hits us to a T because everything that we do uh, is about attitude, and our players are a reflection of us. And if they see us losing control, then they'll lose control.
Yeah.
If they see, hey, that you have a ton of confidence in them shooting the three ball, or hey, let's get a number 9 and let's get a 7.
Yep.
It's okay. It's good. And once they see that you're installing that in them, and that you have all the, they're gonna just rise to that occasion. And so, attitude is one of the. And again, we read a bunch of books as coaches, like you say, the unseen hours. And people don't realize. I think if we got paid hourly, it would be better than salary.
you know, that's where those moments, and this is just full transparency. Like, at Faith, I don't teach. I have a silent study hall and some off
Okay.
periods in basketball. That's one of the main reasons the job was so appealing to me, because at McKinney High, I was doing 5 English classes a day with Wes Watson. And so,
No, it's funny you say that because guess what? I'm a history teacher by trade, and when I got here, we had two doctors that were in the history department, and then we had another person that's been here 20 something years, and they were in charge of the history. They're the history head, and then we had a new person that was here about 7 years. So when I got here, the head of school told me, Coach, I'm going to say this in a term that you can understand. We won't have any playing time for you in the history department.
yeah,
We won't have any playtime. He says, but if you want to do the study halls and things of that nature, maybe help out with the PSATs
yeah,
and you do your basketball. And I start looking around because I was like, he's speaking my language.
that's right. When I went in it, that's what I remembered. What I was talking about. When I went into Faith, it was I asked what was my teaching deal going to be, what was my load going to be, and they said, "Oh, Matt, you're not qualified to teach here." And I said, "You're absolutely right." So what am I going to do? You've had a great career, and I know, and you've coached at a lot of different levels at different schools. What's one thing you would do differently, or something you would do differently, if you could start over in coaching?
you know, I have really become a fan of women's basketball. And I would probably get involved. I've never coached a girls' team. I've trained some girls before, young ladies, but I would definitely get into to that realm because I just love the way they play the game. I mean,
Hmm.
they play. They're pure.
Yeah.
They set the screen. They run the play. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. They don't rely on their athleticism. Now don't get me wrong. There are a lot of great athletes and athletic ladies out there. There are, and
Yeah.
some that are faster, some that can shoot lights out. But just as the way they play the game is just so pure that I've really become a fan, and that's something that I would definitely look into doing if I could do it all over.
But coach, you're pretty intense. How do you think you would go and go about working with them? How do you feel like your personalities would mesh?
I've got three sisters and I've got a
Okay.
daughter.
Okay.
Okay, so and then here at school, when the girls come and hey, coach, can I do? Sure, you can. Now, when the boys come, I got a little more bite to it. But you're right. I mean, that it would allow me to get some patience, to
Yeah.
learn patience. You've gotta just everything. I think they still want to be coached the same way. I would probably have to tone it down some, the intensity wise. But I think young ladies and girls want to be coached just like boys. Yeah.
I think you're right on the money. And I feel like if you're a good coach, you can coach either gender
Uh-huh.
and then also different sports. And now, but I'm saying that not to say that I'm a good coach. So don't. But when I was at McKinney, my AD came to my classroom one day, which is never a good thing. And he said, Matt, I need you to do a favor, which is code for you're going to do this no matter
Yes.
what, but I'm going to try
Yes.
to package it in a nice way. He said, I need you to coach volleyball. And I said, Coach, I besides playing sand volleyball in college for fun, I have
Yeah.
never played it. I don't know anything about it. He's like, oh, don't worry. You're the head coach. She'll teach you everything. Well, she gave me a packet and basically said, you're the freshman B team coach. Go have fun. I
Yeah.
mean, I had to figure out the rotations. I had to figure out how to set up practice and things. But what I learned, I think it was one of the best things I ever did because what I learned was one, how to approach those athletes
Mhm.
differently, but at the same time, still holding them to high standards,
Yeah.
and building
Yeah.
those relationships.
Hmm.
Maybe the delivery at times had to be a little bit different. The first time I
Yes.
made a girl cry in a game, I really didn't feel like I was being too intense or harsh. It was more
Right.
she was so upset because of what she had done than what I was saying to her, but I positioned
Right.
myself in front of her so her parents couldn't see that she was
Yeah.
crying. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
you're okay. You're okay. But I learned one that coaching translates, being able
Hmm.
to learn schemes, different strategies, but relating to kids. And I did such a good job that the next year I was going to do B team again. And obviously, when I say such a good job, that I was being sarcastic because the head coach got fired a week before season. They bumped the
Mm.
varsity assistant up, they bumped JV up, they bumped me up to A, and then I turn around and look at there's no B team coach. I did A and B. Coach, there were
Ah.
nights where it was 4 hours of volleyball coaching and practicing and stuff. And it was one of those deals where there were times where I was hating it in the moment, but now looking back, I mean, the appreciation that I had one for how hard girls work, how
Yes.
much they want to please. I mean, we had
Yes.
we had amazing times. They celebrated each other, and but I got to grow from that as well. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good idea for coaches to get out of their comfort zones some, especially early on when you're learning. But
Yes.
I love the fact that you brought that up.
Yes, yes, girls. Again, I think any gender, as long as they know that you care
Yeah.
and you're coaching them, and you're coaching them the right way. I mean, I wish I could sometimes, like I say, sit down and just, call out a play and tell somebody to get back. I look at, coaches like that. And Phil Jackson, back in the day, he
Yeah.
just sit and whistle. I'm thinking, gosh, that is so cool. But, I get my steps in when I coach. So,
No
I'm
doubt.
in good shape.
I actually had written that down, that you made that comment about standing versus sitting. I'd written it down because I wanted to come back to it. And so, Coach, great job right there of opening that window or that door to go back to that, because it was a shift. I mean, early on, I wanted to be the coach that never sat. And so I actually had my varsity assistant sit all the way over on the end, and I'll, because I told him, I was like, I don't need a seat.
Right.
And there was a point where I felt like I was coaching every play, almost every movement, every pass, and on every decision on both ends. And PGC helped me a lot with that, of
Hmm.
learning more about guys like Popovich, even John Wooden, where their biggest coaching and their most active moments were done in practice. And in the
Yes.
game, it was more evaluating. And also, I didn't want my effort or attitude or infusing myself into those moments to put more pressure or to limit the creativity. And I'm not saying you're doing that. That's what I felt like
Right.
I was
Right.
doing, is I was limiting our creativity of our players, where where all they want, I want them to do is play free, play fast, play instinctively. So I just need to sit my butt down, and then when I see something, get up, give a reminder. But like, the idea, and one of my thoughts was, when I start to sit, will it appear as if I don't care as much or I'm not
Hmm.
working as hard? And I think that's Tyler Costin. I was kind of going back through some of these episodes, and he talked about the types of games that we can play. And
Hmm.
one of those games can be that, like, appearance game. Do we want to appear as if we're this or that or doing something to other people or to our team, or do we want to play winning games? And he claimed that winning games was active in practice, more of that Popovich sitting in game in the moment.
And it's funny because not totally opposite, but in practice, I let my assistant coaches. Don't get me wrong, I'm involved everywhere, but I let them have more of a voice
Yeah, and I
during
think
our
that's huge.
practice times. Yeah, because I think the players they don't need to just hear me all the time. So I like my assistant coaches, whether we're going to work on defense, shell drill, we're going to run offense down here, press break. I think the assistant coaches need to be involved in practice. I'm more kind of laid back, just more of evaluating,
Yeah, yeah,
and then come game time. The reason I do stand uh, is because to start the game, we're always going to be on defense in front of our bench. The first half. So I want to make sure my guys, again, going back to defense. I'm a
yeah.
defensive guy. I want to make sure everybody's in the right position, and so I'm standing and I'm moving around. I'm almost moving with them like I want to play.
No doubt, no doubt.
Like, gosh, man, I wish I could get out there and show you.
Coach,
Man, this is
coaching or playing, what's more fun?
uh, well, now coaching, but back then it was playing.
Well,
But
yeah, I think even right now, I tell players all the time, like, I love what I get to do, but it's
yeah,
not the same as playing the game.
no, no, yeah, it's funny you say it because I tell them, guys, you know how easy it is to go in here and get 4, 6 points a quarter. I mean, all you got to do is hit one shot and layup, get fouled. I mean, this is easy. I don't know how come you guys don't average 24, 28 points a game. Of course, it's easy when we're saying it, but
Yeah,
back then,
yeah.
you know,
Well,
I want to
Michael
see it.
Jordan at 50 said that he could still average 16 a game. He said he would run hard and get a layup or a bucket in transition and get an offensive rebound and get a layup. That's 4 points for 4 quarters. That's 16 a game.
That's it. Hey, coaches, and I don't. I don't understand the mentality that some of the young generation has when they just they some guys pass up open shots, coach. Yeah, I've seen kids. I'm like, you just passed up a short corner jump shot. Yeah, my coach used to have to tell me to stop shooting. You know.
Coach,
Yeah.
the speed round. These are going to be
Okay.
quick questions. Like I feel like I know you, but after the speed round, I really will. You ready?
Okay. Let's go.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
A Millennium Crunch.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Greatest shooter of all time.
Chris Mullin.
Wow. You don't hear that name a ton with that conversation, but
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Chris Mullin.
Best basketball movie of all time.
Got to go with Hoosiers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to go with Hoosiers.
It's a classic. It's like 99% Hoosiers. Apparently, or occasionally some guys will throw out something different, but
Well,
um,
I mean, I want to say Hoosiers. Some of me, one part wants to say Coach Carter.
yeah, that's
You
a good
know,
one. That's said a bunch.
but
Yeah.
yeah, either one. I can watch either one over and over.
Texting or talking.
Uh, Texting.
Favorite holiday.
Christmas.
You're up 3 on defense with 7 seconds left. Do you foul or no foul?
Up three.
With 7 seconds, their ball. Do you foul and put them on the line, or you let them shoot it and see what happens?
Let them shoot it. Let them
I
shoot it.
think at our level, the shooting it is a good idea. I think the higher level in college and NBA, where there's some difficult shot makers out there,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
might want to put them on the line, and you got 7 footers to rebound. Yeah.
That's totally different. My first year of varsity coaching, we're playing against Killeen Easton, I believe, one of the Killeen schools. We're up three with 4 seconds to go, and I tell my guys to foul. We foul. They hit the first free throw. They miss the second one. They get the rebound and go up, make it. We foul them. They hit the free throw and win the ball game.
Oh, that'll do it right there. Never
Yeah. So
again.
never again. Never again.
uh, okay, you mentioned the attitude book. What name another book that you'd give someone?
uh, Another. I gave my players a book called Network. Gosh, and he's a guy from upstate Providence, Rhode Island. He does a lot of training. He did training with Russell Westbrook and
Okay.
networking. He did a lot of work with Coach Boeheim up at Syracuse.
Huh.
That's one of my favorite all time book is they call me Coach. John Wood.
Nice.
So that one, the Dean Smith book, the Bobby Knight. We're old school coaches.
Yeah.
Hey, Leftovers is a pretty good one too,
Coach,
man.
I was not fishing for that. Not fishing.
No, man, now I tell you, I told a lot of people about it. They were buying the books. They were like, I thought about giving them to my players for Christmas one time, and I found out about 5 or 6 of them didn't like to read, and I was like, well, hey, I'm not
There's
going to
no
spend my
audio
money on
version of it either, so sorry, man.
that.
Uh,
But yeah, those are my favorites.
Thanks, Coach. Last one in basketball as a player, who is the GOAT?
I That's a tough one.
I see it. I see the Jordan poster behind
Yes,
you, the free
yes,
throw line dunk.
yes. I'm a diehard Laker fan, but
Yeah.
and I love Kobe, Magic. But in our era, no one did it like Michael, and he even retired and came back and did it again. And so his story to take the jump shot in the NCAA championship game and knock it down. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just everything about him, and he did it with class. He worked hard. And Kobe did too. I think Kobe's a mini
Yeah.
image of Michael, but and of course before us, I'm sure there were some other players,
No doubt.
but in our area, I got to go. I got
Coach, this was so much fun. I've enjoyed all of these talks that I've been able to have over the years now, but it's always special when I have a relationship with the person
Yes.
because one, the conversation flows well, but then also I get to learn some new things about somebody that I already know. And I
Yes.
really
Yes.
appreciate you sharing, giving up your time, and just really enjoyed this, man.
No, man, I have been looking forward to it, and it's an honor. I tell you, I looked at some of the guests you've had, and listened to a bunch of them, and I'm thinking, gosh, I'm actually going to be on this show. I tell you, I called my mom and I said, "Mom, guess what?" And she's like, "Oh," and she's so happy, and my sisters, and then of course the school the other day we didn't connect. I was a little late, and the school said, "Hey, how'd it go?" And I said, "Oh, we had to reschedule." So
We
I
got it
just
done.
we got it done, man. Thank you so much. I wish you nothing but the best, my brother. I mean, I'm super happy and proud of everything you've accomplished. After competing against you is one thing, and we had that relationship on and off the court, but to read your book and then to talk to you some more and just to know you from growing up, your story, moving to Texas, going to Baylor, all of a sudden, things are going up and down at Baylor. Your life is going all over the place. Just your story, just to
Wow.
know it, man, and to see what you've come to now, man. I really admire and appreciate you. So thank you for having me.
Coach, humbled by that. Thank you so much and really appreciated it, man.
Okay, man. We'll see each other down the line.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.